Mm-hmm. Hello and welcome to another edition of the Morning Update live on NTN. My name is Jessie Leonce. Today is Hump Day, the 6th of January, Wednesday, the 6th of January 2021. And if you're watching on air online, good morning to you, those residents here in St. Lucia, St. Lucians living in the diaspora, and individuals worldwide who are looking to keep abreast as to what's happening in our island nation, specifically when it comes to COVID-19. Thank you so much for joining us. We have new cases of COVID-19 here on island to report. I'm going to get into that in just a moment. And also we'll be hearing again from Dr. Gomez, Dana Gomez, the acting national epidemiologist at the Department of Health and Wellness. The ministry is refining its surveillance for home-based quarantine. We had reported just yesterday of the breaches in home quarantine and one individual being detained and brought to institutional quarantine, government-based quarantine, to ride out the rest of the fortnight of quarantine period. They were not compliant, and so the Ministry of Health is ramping up its surveillance. We're going to tell you more about it again in terms of the bio button and the wrist watch. Also, the Prime Minister, Honorable Alan Chasney, is speaking on the paying tribute to the Caribbean hotel magnate Gordon Butch Stewart, and he's also speaking on providing assistance to the people, the government and people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines right now. We know that there is an ongoing situation there with the island's volcano, and in preparation for any eventuality, St. Lucia, alongside other territories in the region, are on standby to provide assistance as need be. So we have the details to those stories and more coming up right after this break. Also, Goodwill Ambassador. We know the Goodwill Ambassadorial Program continues to churn out assistance for St. Lucians. His Excellency Kenny Chitterley taps into resources for a timely donation to the country. So stay tuned for those details and more. If you're just joining us, thank you so much for tuning in. We're due for a break. When we come back, we get into the meat of things.
Overnight, growing national unrest.
Society, a digital cashless society, one world currency.
A vaccine for COVID-19.
Drop the
COVID virus.
Macy's iconic flagship.
Track the coronavirus.
Everybody vaccinated on the corona pandemic. Opposition to the lockdown.
An infected
Conspiracy theories
about the coronavirus.
bizarre claims.
Truth about the origin of COVID-19 hidden from the rest of the world. And the Chinese.
In this constantly changing environment, resulting in sensory overload, cut through the noise and tune in to the National Television Network, the official source of information, all facts.
In the latest batch of cases recorded of COVID-19 here on island, 16 cases recorded are St. Lucian nationals ranging in age from 2 years to 58 years. They are from the Dennery, Castries, Grosley, Soufriere and ancillary districts. They were all seen at a community respiratory clinic where they were assessed and tested for COVID-19, and while awaiting a receipt of their results, they were placed in quarantine by a health practitioner. 8 of the 16 local cases, the nationals, are contacts of previous confirmed cases. Investigations are ongoing by the contact tracing team to determine the possible existence of a link to the other cases. Arrangements have been made for the placement of these individuals into isolation. The additional 4 cases registered in the last batch are non-nationals ranging from 38 years to 84 years old, and these individuals were placed in quarantine pending receipt of their test results. They have been placed in isolation as well. These individuals have been all in care right now. The Ministry of Health is urging everyone to continue taking the necessary measures to reduce the spread of the virus and to protect themselves, family, and loved ones. We ask that everyone limit their movements, adhere to the protocols in public spaces, and avoid social gatherings and other activities. And as was the concern of the health officials, especially for the festive season, we have many persons who are going to be moving about, visiting families and friends in different corners of the island. We also have to take into consideration the holiday travelers, individuals who are coming home for the season, who are visiting a tropical island for Christmas. These things had to be taken into consideration, and there was some degree of concern. We had made significant stride coming off of November into early December, and the hope is that we can maintain the gains that were made then. A call is going out to everyone once again to ensure that you continue to adhere to the protocols, ensure that you take on the recommendations for infection prevention, washing of hands, frequent use of hand sanitizer, and observing the 6-foot distance. It is very important in reducing the risk of transmission. This is the effort right now. COVID-19 is here in St. Lucia, and we need to protect ourselves and our families from any of contracting this deadly virus. Continuing on with news this morning, still on health, the ministry is now better equipped to monitor and manage the home quarantine process in the national battle against COVID-19. For those of you who caught on to the morning update yesterday, we did play in its entirety a statement coming from the acting national epidemiologist, Dr. Dana Gomez, and she was speaking on this new improved approach to surveillance. Faced with the breaches in home quarantine, we reported, and just to remind you that an individual, a female resident of Gros-Islet-Beauséjour, was detained by police officers on the 2nd of January, and that was following her being observed in public areas on several occasions. And so this is not the first time that this has been reported and confirmed by the Royal St. Lucia Police Force in terms of individuals in home-based quarantine breaching the terms of their terms and conditions of their stay, their 14-day period. And so the Ministry of Health is trying to ramp up its surveillance to ensure that persons are compliant. This improved approach to surveillance through the use of technology will be achieved through the use of 2 electronic monitoring devices, the bio button and the wristwatch. Dr. Dana Gomez is the acting national epidemiologist. I know we played it in its entirety yesterday, but for the benefit of individuals who did not have a chance to listen, just listen to this clip from her.
The bio button is a disposable, one-time use body sensor about the size of a quarter, designed to be worn on the left side of the chest. It is small and unnoticeable. It monitors the vitals of quarantined persons who may be at high risk for developing COVID-19 disease. It also provides continuous temperature, respiratory rate, and heart rate measurements to the user. In so doing, it enables the early detection of potential cases. The wristwatch resembles a smartwatch. Through its geofencing capabilities, it ensures that persons wearing the device remain within the confines of their home as per home quarantine protocols. It also allows for the monitoring of vitals of the quarantined individual. This means that should persons develop symptoms during their quarantine period, this would be detected by the Department of Health. Through improved monitoring, this device will aid in the nation's COVID-19 response plan by limiting the spread of the disease, as it helps to ensure that persons remain at home during their quarantine period. The BioSticker will cost US $100 for the 14-day period, and the wristwatch US $75 for 14 days.
The Royal St. Lucia Police, well, that was Dr. Dana Gomez, the acting national epidemiologist, speaking on the improved approach to surveillance on the part of the Ministry of Health and Wellness. The Royal St. Lucia Police Force has indicated that it continues to assist the Ministry of Health with detaining individuals who refused to abide by the provisions of home quarantine and escorting them to government quarantine facilities. Authorities have made it clear that anyone found not adhering to the terms of home-based quarantine upon a review by the Ministry of Health will have their approval revoked, and they will be placed in institutional quarantine. at his or her own expense. Anyone with information regarding possible breaches of the conditions of home quarantine is asked to call the nearest police station immediately. Many persons will be concerned that perhaps the Ministry of Health, the officials are breathing down heavily on individuals for home-based quarantine, but history shows, we have the historical data to show that individuals are not complying to home-based quarantine and, you know, are putting the population of St. Lucia at unnecessary risk. And so the effort right now is to ensure that everyone is compliant if you do receive this privilege of being quarantined at your home. So please, guys, let's all try to adhere to the protocols in our own way. If you're coming back home, you have your 14 days to remain at home until you can move freely about and go shopping and go meeting up and catching up with friends in different quarters of St. Lucia. Please ensure that you are adhering to the protocols where it applies to you. Please take note. Continuing on with this morning, we have St. Lucia being among the OECS member states that have pledged over 3,000 rooms for accommodation in the event of an evacuation order being kicked into gear if issued for St. Vincent and the Grenadines in association with the island's volcano, La Soufriere. Prime Minister Honorable Alan Chasney says St. Lucia and the other OECS member states remain on standby as the region monitors the activity of that volcano.
We've been in contact with several hoteliers, some who have not opened up their properties as yet, as making those rooms available for them. Certainly we're having to put a contingency plan in place that if we need to help them with medical support, i.e. Using the respiratory center as a backup for them as to how we would potentially do that. And certainly using Huonora Airport as much as possible as another source of getting personnel into St. Vincent. So a lot of communication has been taking place behind the scenes. We're hoping for the best, but we're preparing ourselves for the worst.
SEDIMA, that is the Caribbean Disaster Management Agency, has confirmed the activation of its Regional Coordination Plan, that's dubbed the RCP, with 4 teams on standby for deployment as required and in line with the COVID-19 protocols. The region last experienced a volcanic eruption in July 1995. That was the Soufriere Hills in Montserrat. Honorable Chasney says that experience left many lessons to be learned.
For instance, we knew that because of the ash, the immediate impact on airports and the secondary impact on air quality, and in some cases that air quality being bad enough, i.e. the ashes, that it affected the agricultural output. So again, depends on the winds at the time, but this is something that we may not think can impact us, but could have a very severe impact on us here from a health perspective, agricultural perspective, aviation in terms of planes coming in and out. All of these things can be affected.
According to the scientists monitoring La Soufriere, effusive eruptions had been occurring regularly in the last week of December, and the small pool of water which was in the crater of the dome formed following the eruption of 1979 had dried up as a result of the heat. Further emissions in the crater had created a new satellite dome. So everyone is on standby for any eventuality at this time. Prime Minister Chasney, meanwhile, is urging St. Lucians to be on guard.
There may be things that we have to do very quickly, but to be comforted in knowing that there are several eyes watching the situation, and we're in constant contact with the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We're in constant contact with SEDIMA and also with the seismic office in Trinidad and Tobago. There is a lot of good experience that's being made available to us, or expertise that's being made available to us. And certainly NEMO will continue to provide information on a needs-be basis to make sure that the proper preparations are being done here, and that at all times that we're protecting the lives and livelihoods of St. Lucians.
That was Prime Minister of St. Lucia, Honorable Alan Chasney. Please take note of these events happening in the region. And just to go back to our previous time in this program in terms of COVID-19, we also have other territories who are being confronted and grappling with the effects of COVID-19. Up to this point, far and significantly worse than St. Lucia's situation right now. Individuals contracting COVID-19 by the hundreds. You will recall the Dodds prison in Barbados being overrun by COVID-19. Also in Jamaica, Trinidad continues to grapple with COVID-19. And so the efforts by everyone, and we've also seen some degree of regional collaboration happening in terms of dealing with COVID-19. All hands are on deck. I could go back in time remembering the NEMO meeting, my apologies, where you had the first responders from all of the region coming together to determine, okay, so if we are confronted with the hurricane season and COVID-19, what do we do? If we're confronted with a volcanic eruption and COVID-19, what do we do? So all hands are on deck at this point in time, and I know that there are mechanisms that have been kicked into gear to ensure the protection of all of the populations within the region at this time. Again, our thoughts and prayers going out to everyone who's dealing with COVID-19 and other issues within their individual countries. We continue with news this morning, an update. A Caribbean hotel magnate, as we reported yesterday, Gordon Butch Stewart has died. The founder and chairman of Sandals Resorts International died on the evening of January 4th, 2021. Prime Minister Honorable Alan Chasney did pay tribute to the Caribbean giant, whom he said was never an ordinary man. Butch Stewart, Honorable Chasney added, dreamed big as a pioneer and trailblazer. Prime Minister Chasney recalled that as a young director of tourism, back in the 90s, he had convinced Mr. Stewart to take a chance on St. Lucia. 3 hotels and 2,000 jobs later, the legacy and impact of Sandals is indisputable here on island. No one individual, Honorable Chasney noted, has ever left such an indelible footprint on the Caribbean region or been more responsible for the development of the Caribbean brand. Mr. Stewart was a marketing and branding genius, creating the first world-class Caribbean brand with his Sandals product. And thousands of people in the region have jobs and careers because of this man. Honorable Chasney stated that the world knows more about the Caribbean and St. Lucia because of him. In spite of all his successes and recognition on the global stage, Mr. Stewart, Prime Minister Chasney, observed remained a Jamaican boy at heart, a family man, a lover of all things Caribbean, and a tireless advocate for Caribbean people. Honorable Chasney says not only has he lost a former boss from his airline days, but a mentor and, more importantly, a close friend. And the Caribbean, he had added, has lost an irreplaceable icon. So a tribute there coming from Prime Minister of St. Lucia, Honorable Alan Chasney, to Mr. Stewart, Gordon Butch Stewart, on his passing, his life, his work, and his legacy. We are due for a break. When we come back, Goodwill Ambassador, His Excellency Kenny Peter Chitterley, tapping into resources, making a good donation on the medical supplies and emergency packages to the government of St. Lucia. Stay with us.
So you had a good time?
I did. The food was amazing. I'm definitely going to come back here.
I hope you enjoyed it.
I did.
So what's it like tomorrow?
Tomorrow we have a meeting. We have a matter to discuss.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we have a matter to discuss.
What's it about then?
I can't tell you. It's confidential. We can't discuss it.
Alright, that's cool. I understand. You want me to put on some music? You want me to put on some music?
No, I need you to slow down. You're driving too fast.
Speak up and speak out if your life or the lives of others are in danger. Drive safe or drive alive.
Thank you so much for staying tuned. If you're just joining us, good morning to you. St. Lucia is registering new cases of COVID-19. We have 16 cases of St. Lucia nationals ranging in age 2 years from 50 to 58 years. They are from the Dennery, Castries, Grosley, Soufrière, and ancillary districts. These individuals were all seen at respiratory clinics where they were assessed and tested for COVID-19. While awaiting receipt of their result, they were placed in quarantine by a health practitioner 8 of the 16 cases are contacts of previous confirmed cases. Investigations are ongoing by the ministry, the contact tracing team, to determine the possible existence of a link to other cases. Arrangements have been made for the placement of these individuals into isolation, and also registering on island 4 more cases of non-nationals ranging in age from 38 to 84 years old, bringing the total number of cases to 20 new cases registered yesterday, January 5th, 2020. And this brings the total number of cases diagnosed in country to 380. So please take note of that information. In other news, Goodwill Ambassador, His Excellency Kenny Chitterley, is tapping into new resources, making a donation of medical supplies and emergency packages to the government of St. Lucia. Take a look. The St. Lucia Goodwill Ambassadorial Program continues to bear fruit. Goodwill ambassadors are expected to represent St. Lucia locally, regionally, and internationally by leveraging their profile and celebrity status to tap into access for growth and to forge strategic partnerships between the Cultural Development Foundation and other related agencies. Goodwill Ambassador, businessman, entrepreneur, and philanthropist His Excellency Kenny Chitterley is taking the role seriously, recently donating medical supplies and emergency packages to St. Lucia. The Goodwill Ambassador migrated to Canada in 1972 and took with him the spirit of community and industry. Minister in the Ministry of Tourism, Information and Broadcasting, Culture and Creative Industries, with responsibility for culture and creative industries, Honorable Senator Fortuna Belrose expressed gratitude for the donation.
As you know, St. Lucia launched the ambassadorial program about a year ago. And so doing, what we were able to do was to appoint a series of persons across the globe who continue to provide support to our country. And today we're here to receive a container of a shipment of supplies, medical supplies, emergency packages from Ambassador Ken Chitterley in Canada. And of course, Mr. Chitterley, of course, has been a wonderful civilian. He's continued to support our country over the years. And today we're here to say thank you to him and, of course, receive the gracious gift he's been able to send here for the people of our country.
The St. Lucia Goodwill Ambassadors Program is a proposed tool to actualize the national cultural policy in a number of areas. The individuals appointed are citizens of St. Lucia who have achieved international acclaim, and the overall objective of the program is to serve as a catalyst for socio-economic transformation and the development of human capital in all sectors related to the creative arts and the industries, sports, visual arts, gastronomy, and music. Attorney General of St. Lucia, Honorable Stephen Julien, highlighting the impact of the Goodwill Ambassadorial Program, conveyed his appreciation for the gesture.
The items that you see here represents a relationship that has been nurtured over many years between the folks at KLC Freight in Canada, Mr. Ken Chitterley and his family, and through his network and through his appointment as Goodwill Ambassador, he's been able to mobilize his connections and get some of those resources available to us.
The government of St. Lucia will be working with relevant agencies to ensure the supplies and packages are distributed to those most in need. His Excellency Chitterley expresses immense gratitude to those who made the gesture possible, including President of North Star Corporation, Tony Trigiani, President of Superior Medical Canada, Ron Killius, President of Global Medic Rahul Singh, and Accountant Executive of Global Medic Jimmy Gross. For the Government Information Service, I am Jessie Leonce reporting. That report there, thanks to His Excellency, Kenny Peter Chitterley, tapping into resources and making a donation of medical supplies and emergency packages to the government of St. Lucia. It's very much appreciated on behalf of the government and people of this state. We continue with news. A gentle reminder letting persons know that school for the second term of this academic year 2020 to 2021 reopens for all school personnel. That was Monday on the 4th of January. Students will report from January 11th, 2021 as per the school's schedule. There are quite a few daycares and preschools that have been able to open this week, and so you can also also contact these institutions based on your need to find out if they are available for keeping your child or ward. The Department of Education indicates that they are committed to maintaining the health, the safety and educational attainment of all, and consequently they will continue to monitor the situation, taking into consideration the fluid nature of this pandemic. I know many persons are concerned, perhaps you're excited that the kids can go back to the classroom, but also concerned as to the degree of safety that will exist at the compounds. But assuredly, we have two options coming from the Ministry of Education for these schools. All educational institutions will operate from Monday to Friday based on the established school hours, and planning and preparation are to be incorporated within the instructional program. The schools have an option. The small school populations, as per the September 2020 reopening, will operate using the whole school approach. So I would imagine institutions like the Tiroche Combined School, the Bocage Combined, the schools with small populations will take on the whole school approach. The second option for larger schools, the schools, secondary schools, the schools that were on the alternate days system, will ensure that students get at least 3 days of face-to-face instruction per week or per cycle, and this will be supplemented using the distributed learning model. So that is kicked into gear, these two options, to ensure the safety of the kids, auxiliary staff, teachers, faculty, administrators of the institutions. Important considerations for school operations going into this second term. Activities on school premises by all external agencies for this period are on hold. Large group sporting activities are also on hold. Staff members upon return to the school premises must adhere to the established protocol. So if a teacher leaves for break or lunch during this period, when they come back, they must adhere to the protocols of re-entering the school. All mass crowd events are also on hold for the education sector. Adaptation of the instructional plan should include teacher engagement, be done in collaboration with the district education officers and sanctioned by the chief education officer. So these are the important considerations for school operations. Again, adding to the caution and ensuring that there are very stringent measures put in place for the protection of all involved within the education sector. Just getting a note that our time is running out this morning. I just want to remind you all that the Ministry of Health and Wellness is introducing a new approach to refine its home-based quarantine to ensure compliance at that level, introducing the BioIntelliSense Bio button and the Amber wristwatch. And of course, this will be for the individuals who are on home-based quarantine for the fortnight to ensure that they adhere to the protocols. And of course, this is further guided by the concern of breaches in home-based quarantine that we've seen in the last few months since the onset of that protocol coming into effect. Finally, just a reminder on the new cases that we have confirmed for the last 24 hours. Tuesday, January 5th, the Ministry of Health received confirmation of 20 new cases of COVID-19, and 4 of these cases are non-nationals, and the other 16 are St. Lucians, ranging in ages 2 to 58 years old, and they are coming from quite a few districts: Dennery, Castries, Groselet, Soufrière, and ancillary districts. And of course, they are all been placed in isolation at this time, and we know that the Ministry of Health's contact tracing team is working assiduously to establish any possible links with anyone else. That's all the time we have for now. We'd like to thank you so much for watching. My name is Jessie Leon, signing off on the Morning Update live on NTN. Do enjoy the rest of your day and stay tuned to this channel for more updates coming from the government of St. Lucia. Cheers.